Namaskaram. Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha. Sacramento Mahaperiavaa Mandali takes immense pleasure in welcoming you all. On this auspicious day, we have none other than Srimati Vishakha Hariji among us. Swagatam Vishakha ji. It's an honor and blessing to get an opportunity to introduce someone who actually doesn't need any introduction to this very devout sabha. Srimati Vishakha Hariji is a phenomenon. By her eminent, unique, deep, and bhakti-soaked Harikathas, she has transformed and inspired so many hearts to return to the roots of Sanatana Dharma and make them experience divinity. Appealing to all generations, her captivating narration, supported by divine music, has touched many souls beyond words across the globe. Srimati Vishakha Hariji got her musical training under the legendary violin maestro Padma Bhushan Sri Lalkudi Ji Jayaraman. She was initiated into the art of Harikatha by her guru and father-in-law Sri Sri Krishna Premi Swami Avarhar, who is a great Vidwan himself. She also continues to receive story training from her guru, her husband Sri Hariji. Vishakha ji holds a CA degree excelling in academics all along. Her music prowess is well known to all of us. She also is an AAR, All India Radio A-grade artist. She is recipient of numerous prestigious awards, including Kalaimamani from Tamil Nadu state government. Her contributions to Indian culture and music extends beyond Harikatha, being an Harikatha exponent, to being a tunesmith, a collaborator, individual album composer, and also by conducting numerous workshops on music and Harikatha. Exemplifying the saying Manava Seva, Madhava Seva, she has extended her service to humanity by performing for various social causes, including cancer patients, special needs children, individual heart patients, and she has done such numerous cause services. She is also Swachh Bharat ambassador for Trichy. Being a true contributor to society, like a jewel on a crown, she is the founder of Vijayashri School of Harikatha, a patashala to promote the art of Harikatha and a medium to promote our culture, values, and dharma. She is guiding children, teenagers, and youngsters to look up to Indian culture and arts and realize the value and wisdom embedded in it. As Mahaperiyavaa emphasizes, the key to happiness lies in leading a dharmic life. Today, we will have one such rare opportunity where we are blessed to hear Vishakha ji talk to us about life, knowledge, and happiness, lessons from Mahaperiyavaa's teaching for this generation youngsters. I'm sure all of you are very eager to get started. To make this session even more interesting and interactive to the younger generation, we are planning to have a short Q&A session towards the end of the lecture. Kindly post your questions on the YouTube and Facebook live chat window. We will consolidate them and address some of them at the end of the lecture. Thank you. Vishakha ji, we are all set to dive into your nectarine narration. Kindly enlighten us. Jai Sitaram.
Jai Sitaram. Jai Sitaram. Radhe Krishna. Namaskaram to one and all. Very happy to be meeting all of you, though it's on a virtual online platform. I usually keep thinking Mahapariva as well as Bhagavad Pada, Sri Adi Shankara said, this whole world is Maya. It's a virtual world. And inside the virtual world, we are experiencing a totally virtual world. And today, virtual world has become a reality. And though we are using it for good purposes. So, hence, any tool, as Mahapariva says, any scientific advancement or technological tool that is used for dharma, that becomes pavitra, that becomes pavana by itself. So, beginning with today's lecture, today's theme is life, knowledge, and happiness, specifically for today's youngsters. You call them the millennial generation, right? So, you must be wondering how we can be using the teachings of Mahapariva to spread awareness about dharma or life or knowledge or happiness in the present scenario. That is the beauty of Sri Mahapariva's teachings, and in fact, all the great seers and saints. They have the power to see. That is why they are called seers. 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 They have the power to see. They have the Dura Drishti, the Jnana Drishti. And that is why they are able to give us solutions for problems that could arise 50 years later, 100 years later, thousands of years later. If we look into the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, both Valmiki as well as Vyasa, they have given us practical solutions for day-to-day problems. They are relevant even today. Similarly, we have we have taken a few glimpses from Mahapariva's teachings regarding life, knowledge, and happiness. You might be asking me how you could be narrating or explaining or propounding his teachings. Have you met him or have you heard him? I should confess right at the beginning that he attained Siddhi even when I was a small girl. So, what we would be sharing today is the recordings of his lectures in the form of a book called Deivathin Kural. So, from this Deivathin Kural, all his lectures, unlike today, we didn't have that technological tool where they could record him. Audios and CDs and DVDs and YouTubes were not available. So sometimes we feel all these technological tools are such a great boon to us. We could have had Mahaperiyavaa's voice in person. We could have heard him today. Even then, we have this beautiful book which records all of his teachings and what he taught about various issues. So today we will be sharing what he felt about knowledge, life, and happiness. So basically, getting on to the theme, why did we have this theme, life, knowledge, and happiness? And why does knowledge come in between life and happiness? So basically, I wanted to bring to you the central core theme that knowledge is in the midst of life and happiness. If our focus is on knowledge, then we can have a fulfilled living and a happy living. So, knowledge comes in between life and happiness. Knowledge for the purpose of a contented life, a fulfilled life. Knowledge for the purpose of attainment of happiness. That is why we have this theme as life, knowledge, and happiness. For the purpose of clarity of this 1 hour lecture, 1 hour and 15 minutes lecture, I prefer to segregate and classify this into 4 parts. Let's discuss about what Mahapariva taught or what he felt about true knowledge first, then about life, what he professes or preaches as the way to happiness, and the fourth part, what Mahapariva calls from us, what he asks of the younger generation, what he wants the younger generation to do for this society. So these 4 parts will be dealt with in detail. So beginning with the first one, knowledge. Unmai Kalvi, Kalvi Murayin Kolaru. These are the 2 chapters from which we have taken a few of his teachings. So he says, Mahapariva says, what is true education? உண்மை கல்வி என்றால் என்ன? What is true education? Today, whole nation, whole of Bharat, whole world is talking about reforms in the educational system and how to take education, how to make it better, comparing it with systems in Finland and all other systems, etc., Sweden, Scandinavian nations. But what does Mahapariva say? True education is that form of education which can result in humility and building up of character. All other education cannot be considered as education at all. He says very vehemently. True education is that which results in humility. And he says today, many people have degrees, post graduation degrees, doctoral degrees, 2 or 3 MS degrees behind their name. But are we truly humble? Are we truly humble? If education should result in humility, has that education molded us in that proper groom? Because he says, he gives this beautiful comparison. You go to the rural villages, you go to forest tribes, you move with tribal people, the so called uncivilized people. They seem to be more humble, they seem to be more knowledgeable about practical situations, they seem to be more happy, they seem to be leading a very stress free life. But the so called educated class, we call ourselves, we have become so complicated, we have become so fussy about everything. Every minute has become a stressful living for the so called educated class. So he says the tribal people, the innocence and the happiness and the stress free life that the tribal people are enjoying, we call them uneducated, but truly they are the really educated people, he says. Because he goes on to reiterate, if a person is truly educated, then whichever city or whichever village proclaims that the education rate is much more, there that city must have lesser number of courts, lesser number of criminal cases, lesser number of hackers, lesser number of theft. But it is the opposite. In urban cities, you see that the cases, criminal as well as civil cases, whatever theft or technologically what they are trying to steal, stealing money through ATMs, stealing money through using the internet, all these cases are registered only in those cities which have more number of schools and colleges and universities, he says. How is this possible? If education, if a truly educated person, the truly educated person must know dharma, right? This is wrong and this is right, and this is what I should do and this is what I should not do. But does education teaches this? So he says, what is the problem? Kalvi Murayin Kolari. And he goes on to say, in those days, in the ancient days, students were called, or chatran, a student was called Vinayan. Vinayan means a person who is truly humble. Students can learn only if they are humble. But today you go to an LKG student or a UKG student, first stand, second standard, the attitude that they show, where does it come from? Even the childhood innocence is snatched away. He says that innocence and uncomplicated nature that girls and women had, even that is being snatched away, which means it's all the wrong form of education system which is building up arrogance instead of humility and happiness. So where is the root evil? That is the first chapter that we wanted to discuss, because we have to take it to today's youngsters. Today's youngsters are very sharp, very shrewd. If we give them one, they give back 10. I can see that in the school that we have been conducting the last 5-6 months in the Vidushi school of Harikatha. You just give them one piece, they come back with 10 and hundreds and thousands. So you cannot blame the student as such. You cannot blame children as such. We have to see what evils the system of education is inculcating. So he goes on to say, How should education be? How should a student be? The Vinaya. How should a teacher be? What are the characteristics of a student-teacher relationship? All this is what Mahapariva discusses in these two chapters called Unmai Kalvi and Kalvi Murayin Kolaru. Here he goes on to say, in those days, ancient days, we had this practice of Gurukula Vasa. In Gurukula Vasam, the student had to stay residentially with the Guru. By God's grace, I've been blessed with staying with my gurus all my life. So I can see what they are doing, and even while learning from Lal Guri sir, me and my brother, we spent hours together at his house, almost like a Gurukula Vasa. So we could observe what the Guru does. It's not a 45-minute session or a 50-minute session or a 1 hour class. So when the students get to live with the Gurus, that experience itself is different. The teacher also has to maintain his dignity. I should not do this because my student is observing everything that I'm doing. He will follow me. And so to maintain my dignity, I have to get up early in the morning at 6 o'clock. By 6, I have to be up. I have to speak only the truth. Otherwise, my student will get spoiled. This is the way the teacher also commanded respect. And the student continuously learned not from the lessons alone, from the books alone. The Guru was the living example. So every minute, the student could see, look at the Guru, and then how to handle all these challenging situations, everything. They became a part and parcel of the family. And the relationship between the teacher and the student was one of love and affection. So Guru Matave Amma Madri. So that was love and affection. But today, teachers vandande, குழந்தைல வாத்தி வந்தாச்சு அப்படின்னெல்லாம் I hear the online classes also, the chat that go on after the class and before the class. So what kind of feelings they have? I don't know if the students even get up to wish the teachers good morning ma'am or good evening ma'am nowadays. So what kind of relationship do the teachers come on? What kind of relationship do the students have? What kind of respect the students have for the teachers? The both way relationship is at stake. So when can an individual be a good citizen of India? When he is a good student. If the seed is good, the tree is going to really be huge and magnificent. If the seed itself is spoiled, then there is no possibility of growth of that particular seed into a plant or a tree. So regarding education problems, Mahapariva puts forth, he says, education should first and foremost result in humility. And he gives an example. That is why in the Gurukula Vasa, the students, even if that particular child was the king's son, that king's son had to go for Bhiksha Vandana. Bhiksha Vandana, Adi Shankara did that. All these brahmacharis, all these students, they had to practice only celibacy till they finished their education. They were celibates and they had to go from house to house begging alms. Why was this practice done? Even the king's son, he had to go and beg for alms. Bhavati Bhiksham Dehi. He had to ask. Why? To crush the ego of the student. To crush the arrogant attitude of the student. So these practices, simple practice. Now you can be asking me, is it possible to go on the streets of Sacramento or San Diego or San Francisco for Bhavati Bhiksham Dehi? This is not what we are trying to tell. But smallest points, we cannot follow 100% of what was happening in ancient India or during the ancient civilizations. But the quintessence, why these practices were being followed, if we can just deeply look into why these practices were followed, then definitely we will get somewhere. There's a will, there is a way. We will get some practices, some value-based lessons can be taught, and some projects can be like how for social service these youngsters go from village to village. there can be some introduction of these policies where the ego is crushed and humility is built. So, again, reiterating the chapter 1, knowledge, Mahapariva says, education vidya dadati vinayam, vinayat yati patratam, patratvat dhanam apnoti, dhanat dharmam, tatas sukham. So, vidya means education should result in humility, first and foremost objective. Education which results in arrogance cannot be called education at all. Educated class will still be only considered illiterate if we cannot face the challenging situations with humility. Again, he says, wherever the educated class is more, there the crimes, court cases, forgery cases, theft, etc., should get reduced considerably and not increase. It's not the other way around. And he goes on to say, seek a guru, crush the ego, and true guru bhakti, that love for guru, is the true medicine to take away the root evil. That guru bhakti itself will give knowledge and self-realization. Again, he gives a beautiful example. If we have a disease, some fever or some particular problem, along with the medicine, doctor prescribes a diet. இல்லை இல்லை நான் டயட்லாம் நான் ஃபாலோ பண்ண மாட்டேன். I have a cold, I will still eat ice creams, I will still drink cool drinks, but I will put the medicines. No, it won't work. Medicine itself will sometimes get converted into poison because the diet is not followed. So, staple diet in an education system is Guru Bhakti, is what Mahaperiyavaa says in this chapter called Unmai Kalvi and Kalvi Murayin Kolari. Next part about life, வாழ்க்கை தரம் and எளிய வாழ்வு. வாழ்க்கை தரம், he says, Mahaperiyavaa says, he gives a very beautiful example. I used to wonder, even in those days, even 30-40 years back, was this happening? Because he says, nowadays, the term increasing the standard of living has become a very common term. Even 30-40 years back, 40-50 years back, during his times, people were talking of increasing the standard of living. வாழ்க்கை தரம். What do we think generally? Increasing the standard of living means having ACs, air conditioners, 4 cars, 4 people in the family, 4 people, 4 cars, and all very luxurious cars, big ship-like cars, amassing to huge wealth. And that means raising the standard of living. That is what we generally think good standard of living means. Eating with all kind of pizzas and burgers. That is not increasing the standard of living. So Mahaperiyavaa goes on to say, there are 2 types of growth. One is the horizontal growth, where animals grow horizontally. Because animals grow horizontally, they are called tiriyak. Human beings grow vertically. They grow vertically, not horizontally. So our intentions, our thoughts, our opinions, all those also have to grow vertically, not horizontally. Today, even human beings are growing horizontally. You can take it in the literal sense also. Nanna pushti tushtiya gunda, horizontal growth only. But he compares it with the animals and says, animals eat only when they are hungry. Even if it is the lion eats only when it is hungry. But what do humans do? Some rasagulla or gulab jamun or jalebi is kept before us. Automatically the hand goes there. Whether we are hungry or not hungry, the stomach is full, still the hand goes automatically to the rasagulla. Which means human beings are not able to control our emotions. So, வாழ்க்கை தரம், the standards of living, we keep looking at people around us, and if they buy iPhones and iPads, immediately we say, oh, I'm not having a good standard of living. Look at the way they are enjoying life. And these people get sleepless nights because of that. They're not able to eat food, nutritious food, and a proper night's sleep. All this has become luxury completely. All luxuries are there, have entered our house. Necessities have become luxuries. Luxuries have become necessities. So, where is the question of leading a fulfilling life? So, Mahapariva says, increasing the standard of living means सादा जीवन ऊंचे विचार विचार ऊंचे है तो जीवन भी ऊंचे जाएगा. If the vicharana, if the thought process goes vertical, if it increases, if it rises, if our mind can think at a high level, then it is called a high standard of living. High standard of living doesn't mean that you're living in a bungalow, in a mansion with swimming pools all around and with big backyards and courtyards. No, still the mind can be narrow, still the mind can think very cheap. That is the opposite. Sada Jivan Unche Vichar, put opposite. Sada Vichar Unche Jivan is what we are doing right now. So we can fill our houses with electronics, electrical gadgets, our wardrobes can be full. But all these together, all laptops, all cell phones, all iPads, all that, can it give us peace at heart? Something that the heart ever longs for. Mahapariva says, Bhoga cannot give it. Only yoga can give it. That is why even the Westerners, all the Westerners, London, America, all those countries, people have turned towards yoga, Vedanta, and Bhakti. East, even after seeing the West coming a full circle, East is not able to give up all this. East is going towards West, and West is moving towards East. That is what is happening in the past few years, past few decades. So the Westerners are moving towards yoga, and Easterners are moving towards boga. I think everybody has to come a full circle to experience this. But he makes this point very clear. Whatever I'm talking, I'm just translating exactly Mahapariva's whatever feelings he has expressed, and that has been recorded in the book. Right at the beginning, I have expressed this. So here he says, highest civilization is characterized by high standard of living, which is again characterized by a fulfilled mind, nothing else. Buying a smartphone or buying an iPhone cannot increase the standard of living, because immediately the next version of the phone will come, and what happens? This phone becomes outdated, and you feel that your standard of living is not up to the mark and it's outdated. And a very important point that Mahapariva says, people who can afford all this, they buy. What about people who cannot afford all this? They look at all the others who have all these things and they get enticed by all this. It becomes an intoxication, it becomes an addiction, and this only brews greed and jealousy more and more. One has the desire to buy more and more and more, then he is called a real poor man out there. Who is the poor man out? Who is the rich man out there? This question again Mahapariva raises. குறை ஒன்றும் இல்லை அப்படிங்கிறவனுக்கு அவன் தான் உண்மையா திருப்தன். இந்த வாமனாவதார Vamana Bhagavan says, Bali Chakravarti says, I can give you the entire Dvipa, the continent I can give you. Vamana Bhagavan says, what am I going to do with the whole continent? Okay, we'll give you a country, because Bali Chakravarti was ruling over all the continents and countries. And then Vamana Bhagavan says, no, just 3 feet of my 3 feet land is enough. That is enough for me. And then there is this question. This Bali Chakravarti says, you look so small. I thought looking at your tejas and radiance, you would be really a brilliant personality. But your mind is as low and as cheap and as narrow as your murti. You are a Vamana murti, so you're not able to think also broad. When I say I want to give you something, why don't you ask? Why don't you ask? And then Vamana Murti says, those who ask for more and more, they are the real poor people out there in the world. And those who say, I have enough, I'm happy, I'm satisfied. Those people are the rich people out there. Today you can see who takes huge loans, billions, crores, millions of rupees, dollars, who borrows? Billionaires borrow. Billionaires and millionaires take huge loans and they are not able to repay. The poor beggar on the street doesn't take a 10 crore loan. If you take a loan, lack of something means poverty. So the billionaires and millionaires out there need not necessarily be wealthy. Lack of something is poverty. They want something more. That is why they are borrowing more and more. Today's culture is the whole culture is based on borrowing, education loan, car loan, house loan. Everything is on loan. The marriage is conducted with 100 crore rupees and 200 crore rupees. Yeah, marriage na tali kattina or kovilla vechi tali kattina kalyanam illaya adu. And immediately after that 2 months after the marriage, the lady or the whomever is at fault, nobody knows. But that is it. 100 crores of money gone in 2 months. The girl comes back home. So what are we really trying to achieve in this life? So here Mahapariva goes on to say, lack of something means poverty. So that means he goes on to say, contentment is what is a characteristic of high standard of living. Rat races, competitions, and jealousy, all this. And he goes on to give a beautiful example. And the Kalatla Pata, in those days, ancient days, even the king will not build a palace bigger than the temple. The biggest skyscraper in the whole region, in the whole city, or in the whole town, for that matter, the whole mandala. Tondai mandalathike or Tundira mandalamnu solrat Mahaperiva. That whole place, the biggest skyscraper will be the temple. And the grandest silks and the grandest ornaments will be worn by the deity inside the temple, not even by the queen. The queen will offer all her ornaments and all her beautiful apparels to the Ambal or the Tayar inside the temple. That is how Krishna Deva Raya's queens offered to Tirumala Tirupati temples and all other temples also. So the richest man also, he will never declare his or show off his wealth, his private wealth. All the biggest festivals, the biggest marriage will be the Kalyana Utsava of the Perumal and the Tayar inside. So, private people never conducted dinners or tea parties or they never showed off their private wealth at all. Why? Because this could brew jealousy and greed for others who did not have so much. Why to unnecessarily create this feeling of jealousy and greed in the rest of the youngsters? Today, youngsters, they are living in WhatsApp and Facebooks. What does Facebook and WhatsApp and other social media do? We can use it for the right purposes also. Right at the beginning, we were talking about using these tools, virtual tools, towards reaching reality. But what do generally youngsters do with their social media? They take a photo of themselves standing at some airport or inside the plane or inside the ship or wearing a new dress or eating a very high dinner, a very high class dinner, and they will send that photo to thousands of their friends, hundreds of their friends. Do you think all these friends will be very happy to look at that? Immediately the next feeling is, oh, அவனுக்கு என்ன அடிச்சது யோகம், நமக்கு என்னடா அது இந்த தயிர் சாதமும் நார்த்தங்கா வந்தா நமக்கு. Immediately that is the kind of feeling that today's youngsters are experiencing. So are we really using the technological tools to make friends or to create enemies? That is my question, which Mahapariva asks right at the beginning. Are we creating friends Are we creating Facebook friends or are we creating Facebook enemies? We will be having 30,000 Facebook friends, but not one single personal friend in person to help us out when we are really in need. So, what is this generation moving towards? This is what Mahapariva says. Extreme desires. Avoid extreme desires. Doesn't mean that you have to reject desire itself. We have to definitely be presentable. We have to live a proper, good living. Doesn't mean that Ati Trishna na kartavya, Trishnam naiva parityajet. Don't yearn and long for more and more and more. Ati Trishna na kartavya. Krishnam naiva parityaje. That doesn't mean you have to become a sannyasi, give up everything. There is always a moderation, a moderate line of balance. Shanaihi cha bhoktavyam. Don't eat all the rasagullas together. Shanaihi, if you eat one a day, then you can eat definitely till you're 85 or till you're 90, you can lead a good life. Otherwise, everything at a time, the greediness will steal our life, will steal our health, will steal swayam vittam uparjitam. Shanaihi cha bhoktavyam. Enjoy the rightly earned in moderation. Don't try to create jealousy or greed in the hearts and minds of others. This is a beautiful advice which is very practical in today's scenario for youngsters. So, வாழ்க்கை தரம் எளிய வாழ்வு. These two are the chapters from which we have taken this part of the lecture. Like how Tyagaraja Swami says, Rugalu padiveluna cheredu nugalu gatigani. O manasaya rugalu padiveluna cheredu nugalu gatigani. O manasaya rugalu padiveluna ಊರಲಿನ ಬಂಡುದ ಮೂಡು ಮೂರದ ಉಗಾನಿ. ಊರಲಿನ ಬಂಡುದ ಮೂಡು ಮೂರದ ಉಗಾನಿ. ನೂರು ಕ್ಷಣములబ్బినగంతో నోటిగంతగాని. వేరు నిండు పారిన పాత్ర గుదగు నీరు వచ్చుగాని. సారతరుని హరిని ತ್ಯಾಗರಾಜ ಸನ್ನುತುನಿ ಮರವಗೆ ಮನಸ ಹೂಗಲು ಪದಿವೇಲುಲ್ನ. ಸಾರತರುಣಿ ಹರಿಣಿ. This is Kirtana of Tyagaraja Swami. Is wanted to, I'm never used to giving a lecture continuously for 1 hour or 1.5 hours. So always keep singing in between. So I think I'm not able to come out of that habit. Rugalu padivelunna cheredu. Tyagaraja Swami says, whatever size of container that you have in your hand, you can fill the container only to its capacity. You cannot take the whole of the Samudra Jala in one small patra. Just like what Mahatma Gandhi says, this world has enough for everyone's need, but that doesn't mean that the world has enough for everyone's greed. The world has enough for everyone's need, not greed. So the first chapter that we saw from Mahapariva's teachings from Devathin Kural was Kalvi, Unmai Kalvi, Kalvi in Kolaru. That is true education and the different forms of education, the different reforms that can be made. And the next chapter that we saw was regarding life. That is the Varkai Taram, standards of living and Eliya Valvu, simple living. The third part, we move on to the third part where he, life, knowledge and happiness. Happiness, beautiful word for which most of us do not understand the true meaning. So who is really happy out there? This was a question that Yadu Maharaja had in his mind. He went on a search hunt, treasure hunt, to find out Who is the real happy man out there? He went to all the regions. This is a story that Sri Krishna himself tells in Srimad Bhagavatam. He goes to Karnataka, he goes to Andhra, he goes to Gujarat, he goes to Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Tamil Nadu. Everywhere people are sitting with gloomy faces, depressed faces, as if they were struck with corona. Today, that is the biggest problem, no? Most of us always depressed, talking about the same thing again and again, beating around the bush. Nobody knows the solution. We have to manage with what is going on right now. So, Yadu Maharaja had this question: who was the happy man out there? Truly, we went on asking everybody, "Are you happy?" That person would say, "No, I am happy," but as soon as he said "but," he would run away, because a happy man never says "but." குறை இருக்கிறவனுக்கு தான் அந்த but அப்படிங்கிற அந்த வார்த்தை வரும். So no complaint, no grievance. Is there a man out there like that? Finally, he met that Avaduta Dattatreya Swami in Sahyamalaka Kshetra. So, and that person, he was so peaceful, so blissful, so happy, very contented, very fulfilled. And the very sight of that Dattatreya Swami, Atri Maharishi's son, that is why he was called Dattatreya, Avaduta, Yadu Maharaja, the king immediately prostrated before Dattatreya Swami and he said, "How are you so happy? Everybody is talking about life, knowledge, and happiness, and all these lectures and sessions and webinars and seminars going on about how to become happy. Nobody seems to be happy. How are you happy? In fact, I don't see any student, no school, no student, no Shishya, not even 4 people. Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada, at least he had 4 students, not even 4 students for you. You don't even have a watch, not even a chain, no trust, no institution to manage, no YouTubes, no Facebook accounts, nothing. Still, you're so happy." And then the Davaduta smiled and he said, "You know how I'm happy? I don't have any of this. That is why I'm happy." That was the answer that Avaduta gave. Avaduta Geeta, he taught about the 24 gurus in the whole world. You might be wondering who the gurus are. Tyagaraja or Purandadas. No, he talks about spider being a guru. He talks about the pigeon being a guru. He talks about insects and wasps being gurus for all of us. So youngsters, I think I cannot call myself a youngster. I have already crossed all that period. Youngsters, you should start learning from everything around. Let noble ideas come from every direction, is what the Rig Veda says. So here, Mahapariva, coming back to Mahapariva, he says, Nagariga Vyadikku Marundu Enna. This is the chapter's name. What is the medicine for this disease called addiction to fashion, brands, and style statements? If I have to translate it into English, this is what I can do at best. Dharmame Talai Kakum, Manidanum Mrigamum. These are the 3 chapters where he talks about happiness. Here he gives a very, very important point. He raises a very important point. What is the point? Every individual, every human being has 4 goals: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. These are called Chaturveda Purusharthas. But are we concentrating on attaining all these 4 goals, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha? Today, millions of people, whether they are youngsters or old people or just born infants, everybody's concentration is only on sense gratification. That is Kama through Artha, through earning wealth. Sense gratification through earning wealth. Kama through Artha. Kama through Artha. Fulfillment of Kama. Kama means whatever desires we have, fulfilling the desires through Artha. What about the rest 2 Purusharthas? Dharma and Moksha. Nobody thinks of attaining Moksha through Dharma. Everybody thinks of attaining Kama through Artha. Whom do we have to teach us to move towards Moksha through Dharma? Only when all these four goals are given equal importance can an individual be satisfied, happy, live peacefully. True happiness comes to that person only. If you say, I'm totally going to ignore Artha, I don't want a single rupee at all, I'm going to live without money, it's not possible. No, I don't want karma at all. I have no karma, I have no desires at all. Whom are we going to try to cheat? Matrainam kamangal matrelo rembavai. Everybody has desires. Everybody has something to fulfill, get fulfilled. But what about the other two aspects, other two goals, dharma and moksha? None of the systems of education today talk of fulfillment of the dharma and moksha concept at all. That is why he says, goes back to knowledge, helping out life, knowledge bringing happiness. That is why I told you right at the beginning, we have placed knowledge in the middle, life, knowledge, and happiness. Knowledge is the route to fulfilled living, knowledge is the route to happiness. So here, now, he says there are two types of education, Paravidya, Aparavidya. Aparavidya is what we are studying now, the physics and the chemistry and the history and the geography and the maths and the trigonometry, everything. Paravidya is what the Vedas teach about Paramatma. There are so many things that we cannot perceive with this eye. We need that inner eye, that concept of self realization. All that is not taught at all. We are constantly going on finding out tools for scientific advancement and advancement and advancement. And there are people who say, in the Kalam, this is an age where science is ruling, so much of advancement in science, technological tools have come. Why do we need religion? Mahaperiyavaa makes a statement here. Only here, only now, when science has advanced so much, we need religion. It can be a boon as well as a bane. If an atom bomb is found, if an atom bomb is discovered, you can use it for good purposes, save the nation. You can use it. If it gets into the hand of a terrorist, then gone. The whole world is gone. Where is the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, treating the whole world as one? Only religion can create more and more atmosphere of peace. Science can only create restlessness. The mind, if it has to be peaceful, only religion can give that peace and ananda. That is why we have Tyagaraja Swami's Kirtanas and Purandaradasar Kirtanas. 4,89,000 Sasira Kirtana, 4,89,000 Kirtanas, and then Tulsidas Bhajans. Why do we have all these compositions? If science advances, we need more and more religion to calm our mind, because the mind becomes more and more restless at the touch of a button, at the tip of our fingers. Truly, today we have the entire world. But what about the calm mind? Where is that calmness, composed and calm mind operating with that balanced notion? Where is it? Today, youngsters are not able to handle even the smallest challenging situations. You call yourself empowered. How can a person call himself empowered if you're not able to handle even the smallest 99 out of 100, that 1 mark gone, students are getting depressed. I'm not talking about the suicides for failing the particular subject. Even not scoring 99.99 you have scored, but still the parents put pressure on, why did you lose 0.01? That is the parents' mentality today. Where is this rat race going to end? So here again, Nagariga Vyadika Marinde Enne. Mahapariva says, Dharmam. Dharma, moksha. These two goals have to be focused on. You have to focus on these two goals, reduce our desires and necessities. Only then our restless mind can be made a little calmer. We have to spend a lot of time on Bhagavat Vishaya. Only then peace and contentment and happiness will enter our lives, will fill our lives. There are statistical studies where more and more you are talented, more and more you become a celebrity, more and more brainy, more and more is the depression. Right? Because the mind hankers after something more and something more, achieve more, achieve more. That talent hunt. Let the talent hunt go on one side. But that hunt for Bhagavat Vishaya to fill our hearts with that pleasantness, to give pleasantness around us. Our aim should be to make people happy, to be happy ourselves, and to make all other people around us happy too. That should be the aim of every individual. Only then the whole world can be a better place to live. That is why it is said, Gate Shoko Nakattavyaha Bhavishyam Naiva Chintayet Vartamanena Kalena Vartayanti Vichakshanaha. Past is not worth mourning. If we have done something, we can't keep sitting. Worth mourning. Gate Shoko Na Kartavyaha Bhavishyam Naiva Chintayet. Future, you cannot keep worrying about future. What will happen? When will this COVID end? When can we meet our relatives in person? We cannot keep worrying. There is no solution to it. We don't know the solution. So don't think of the past. Don't worry too much about the future. But while you are living in the present, why don't you make people happy in the right means? Why don't you make people, someone smile? There was some saying somewhere, make at least one person smile every day. It could be a very silly joke. It could be a joke which doesn't make you laugh at all. But still, if you're successful enough in making that one person smile per day, it means that you are growing a happier person. You are yourself growing into a happier person. So here, again, Mahapariva says, today, students are torn between the heritage and culture that is taught at homes and the new systems at school, including the peer pressure. The problem is the problem of plenty. Choices are too many. If you just give two choices, green, red, which do you choose? Green. But if I say green, red, violet, white, then black, gray, immediately your mind starts thinking, oh, there are so many choices. Which could I choose? Maybe I should have said red. Oh, maybe I should have said white. Maybe I should have said that kind of regret and that kind of guilt enters when the choices are too many. Don't give too many choices to yourself. You can fill your house with too many furniture and lot of vessels and all other electronic and electrical gadgets. But that doesn't make a house a home. He says we need time for each other. In the family, we have compromised a lot. In Sanatana Dharma, we have compromised a lot. I think no other religion has compromised so much as our own Sanatana Dharma. We have actually cut off all the plants, considering them as weeds. அதெல்லாம் தேவையில்லை அதெல்லாம் தேவையில்லை அதில் காத்தால எழுந்துக்கிறதா தேவையில்லை மற்ற காத்தால எழுந்து குளிக்கிறதா தேவையில்லை. We've compromised so much. We have replaced all the plants with weeds. Today, what we are left with is just a barren land with some weeds grown here and there. I think there is nothing much to compromise further. So, where are we heading towards? If we really need to be happy, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Dharma me talai kakum. So, the three chapters, knowledge, what Mahapariva says as Kalvi in Kolare. Life, what Mahapariva says as Varka in Taram. Happiness, what Mahapariva tells how to focus on dharma and moksha besides artha and kama. He doesn't say reject it. He says give equal importance, at least some importance to Paravidya, some importance. And then the last part of this lecture, Ilaigniyar Kadamai. I told you I'm going to segregate this lecture into four parts. The first three is about the topic life, knowledge, and happiness. And the fourth part is what do you do there? Out there are so many youngsters. இளைஞர்கள் கடமை. What is the duty of the younger generation right now? Here he says, duty of generation Gen Y, whatever you call it, the millennial generation. He says, Paropakarartham idam shariram. This body is meant to help and serve one and all, which means if youngsters have to serve the society right from the prime of the youth, that particular feeling of நம்மனால இந்த தேசத்துக்கு என்ன, how we can serve our nation, how we can serve our society, how we can help our parents out there, how we can help our family members out there, how we can help everybody around us, what can we do, what smallest contribution we can do from our side. I think this kind of feeling should be inculcated right at the beginning in the prime of the youth, when the body is young and healthy itself. Youngsters should start serving the society like Vivekananda Swami, like Narendra. Narendra became Vivekananda Swami. And for this purpose, Mahapariva says youngsters need to first strengthen their body. Today, young people are so weak. The 80s and the 70s, people in the 70s and 80s are much, 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 much healthier than the 20s and the 30s and the 15s. Teenagers, one work you do, then you have to sit the whole day and say, I did that, I did that, I did that, so I'm taking rest. I remember my one of my cousin brothers. He got up at 10 o'clock and immediately I said, go brush your teeth. And he said, what are you telling me, Vishakha? I just got up now. I need some rest. I was just rolling in laughter. I just got up now. I need some rest. So, getting up from your sleep itself is a big thing nowadays. So, today's youngsters, Mahapariva says, youngsters should have a strong physical body. And more important than the strength of the body is the strength of the mind. Physically strong, mentally weak is of no use. Mental strength, a strong character, and clean both externally and internally. Paropakara idam shariram. Only then a mind, a heart filled with lust and anger and greed. Do you think those people can serve the society? So youngsters need to fill their heart and mind with dharma, truth, fearlessness, adveshta, sarvabhutanam, maitra, karuna evacha, nirmamo, nirahankaraha, samadukha, sukha, kshami. With all those virtues that Lord Krishna tells us, teaches us in the Bhakti Yoga in chapter 12, he gives typical examples because there could be some youngsters who say, which youngster who has a brain and a brawn will want to serve the society? They will only want to improve their own fame or name or wealth. They would not want to work for the society. He gives two examples. One, Hanumanji. Second one is of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaja. Beautiful examples that Mahapariva gives in his teachings. Hanumanji had brain, beauty, brawn, everything. Brawn is strength. He had brains, he had the strength. Still, with a balanced, composed mind, whenever it was necessary, he acted valorously. He was filled with valor. Whenever it was not necessary, he put his valor down. That was not his priority. He remained calm. Buddhir balam, yasho, dhairyam, nirbhayatvam, arogata. Youngsters should have buddhi, balam, buddhir balam, nirbhayatvam, fearlessness. Arogata, not filled with diseases. Ajadyam, you should not be lazy. Vakpatutvam, communication skills must be developed. Vakpatutvam, cha hanumat smaranat bhavet. Youngsters should have all these qualities that Hanumanji possessed. Here he says, most importantly, he had beauty, he had strength, he had everything. But Hanuman did not use any of these qualities for his benefit. He used everything for the benefit of those people who are in trouble. Sugriva was in trouble. Hanuman was with Sugriva. Then Sugriva became the king. Hanuman did not lead a happy, cozy life. He came to Rama because Rama was in need. Wherever there was a person seeking help, you can see Hanuman there. So that must be the attitude of youngsters. Wherever people need us, there we should be ready to stand with humility and devotion. Hanumanji, personification of true service. Geetarthamu Sangeetanandamu Nita Una Judara O Manasa Geetarthamu Sangeetanandamu. He had everything. He had knowledge, he had buddhi, balam, yashas, fame, everything. But he never used it for his own benefit. He never walked the way of violence or terrorism. He never resorted to torturing others. He used his strength to serve those people who were really in need. Sugriva Maharaja and then Rama. He Anjan Enjar அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம் இல்லையா? Anjan Enjar is Anjaneer. Anjan Enjar. He gives this term. Mahapariva gives this term. So these kind of youngsters who are ready to even sacrifice their own life for a noble purpose, like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaja. He gives a typical example. He worked for Swarajya. He worked for the Desha. Today, Desha Bhakti is a term that we should really get into the dictionary and look into the meaning of Desha Bhakti, patriotism and nationalism and whatever. We have taken it for granted. But Shivaji, his life breath, he sacrificed it for our freedom, helping others in need, ignoring their own difficulties is such a great quality, and that is Kshatriya Dharma. Today we need youngsters for Kshatriya Dharma, Mahapariva says. Kshatriya means protecting the good from the evil. Today life has become, the world has become survival of the fittest. It should be survival of the virtuous, not survival of the fittest. It should be survival of the most dharmic people. So it should be survival of the virtuous. Towards that, what should youngsters do? Youngsters should inculcate that Atma Bala, Mahapariva says, Atma Bala and perseverance. And that is why he says we need Ahimsa soldiers. Ahimsa soldiers. It's a very oxymoronic term, no? Soldiers, nale, they use Himsa, they have guns and they have swords. But here he says we need Ahimsa soldiers in the form of youngsters. Because it is these soldiers, that's why I keep telling the Vidushi school students, they are all soldiers for India because we need Indian culture and heritage. The glory of our Bharata Desha should be taken as such, shown, not manipulated by other people with other notions. As such, ulladu ulla padi, how beautiful, how great rishis have lived in Bharata Desha. My revered Guru Shri Shri Anna, Shri Shri Krishna Premi Swamigal has written about 100 rishis who are actually 100 scientists whom Bharata Desha even doesn't remember their names today. He's written about 100 women, iconic women in Sati Vijayam, almost 54 women soldiers who sacrificed their lives. Do we even know their names? Do we know about Hadi Rani? Do we know about Ahalyabai Holkar? Do we know about Rani Durgavati? Do we know about Tarabai? But all that we know about our nation, Bharata Desha, will be the Mughal came and conquered us. The British came and conquered us. We had so many conquests. The Muhammad of Ghoris and Ghaznis came and conquered us. We always give them the story of where we lost. We never give them the story of where Bharata Desha won, where even one Nayaki Devi, one queen, made that Muhammad Ghori flee from our nation. We don't even know her name. So today, we need youngsters who are ambassadors of Indian culture, Indian heritage, Ahimsa soldiers, not who can spread the glory of our nation through all these art forms, through these 64 art forms, through the best of the possible, whatever scientific, technological tools that you talk of today, use it for bringing out the glory of the nation and not demeaning the nation at all. So the whole world is now looking up to India in some way, India should become that superpower it was. It has everything in it. So it has been an unacknowledged superpower for so many years. This is what I keep saying since the past decade. So today, what we need to take up, the whole world is watching us. Let India, let our Bharata Desha, we have had great Mahans like Mahapariva, like Tyagaraja Swami, like Swati Tirunal, like Bhadrachala Ramadasa, like Annamaya, like Vivekananda Swami. You can go on and on and on and on. Endaro Mahanubhavuno Andariki Vandanamudu Endaro Mahanubhavuno Andari Vandanamudu Yendaro. So many Mahanubhavas like Mahapariva. If you look at the Devatan Kural, there could not be a single person who is not in awe of Mahapariva's teachings, because he talks about art, he talks about architecture, he talks about music, he talks about dance, he talks about science, he talks about astronomy, Vanashastram, astrology. He gives artifacts, all the evidence, archaeological evidence. Wherever he goes, he has had this eye for detail. So he talks about everything and anything and gives answers for today's problems. How could such a person who lived years and years back give solutions for today's problems? So we've had such great people living in Bharata Desha who can be a guidance for the entire world. Today, millions of people are getting solace and peace because of Mahapariva. Even having the photo of Mahapariva and doing the puja gives so much of solace and peace to each one of us. So I would like to conclude the session, the lecture, Life, Knowledge, and Happiness, saying that if at all we can do at least something in return for Mahapariva, for the beautiful teachings that he has passed on to the posterity, I think 1% of following his teachings. We cannot do the 100 out of 100%, but at least 1%. பணத்தை விட்டு குணத்தை கொள்க அப்படின்னு எழுதியிருப்பார். பணத்தை விட்டு குணத்தை கொள்க. Let us follow and try to imbibe at least little bit of virtues that he wants us to take in, imbibe. He was 100% that kind of a greatest saint. At least 1% of that bhakti, 1%, 0.001% of that jnana and vairagya. I think that itself will fill our life with knowledge and happiness. Life, knowledge, and happiness with Guru Bhakti. Let his grace be showered on all of us, and let all of us take these teachings, these preachings to the entire world, so that the entire world can experience the bliss of his Upadeshas. Thank you. We will now move on to the question answer session.
Thank you, Vishakha Hariji. It was truly a blessing. Yeah. We have few questions that I've lined up, and some of them you have already addressed, but still I would like to repost those questions to you. Thank you one and all who have sent all the questions. The first question that I have is, there is a lot of peer pressure both for children and adults, like parents too, on what is defined as normal. How do we stay centered in these times?
A beautiful question. That's what I was talking about in the lecture. So while I'm talking, I think you can mute your video, otherwise it's echoing. Yeah, thank you. So that was one of the points that Mahapariva himself covered in one of his chapters. So there is this peer pressure. Friends expect something, but you need not keep looking externally at all the time. We have our mind and heart says something. You take this. Of course, definitely there will be people who mock at you, who will tease you, who will ridicule you. But if you know that your heart wants this, this is my goal, this is my destination, this is my means, and it is according to your dharmic conscience, I think all others, even those people who ridiculed you, will follow your footsteps. You need not consider, you need not keep looking externally all the time. You have all the freedom and rights. I think, as per the constitution, I should say, if you have the freedom to express, you have the freedom to think your way, you have the freedom to act your way. And if it is going to create more and more good for the people globally, I think you should definitely go in your way. Others will follow you.
Beautiful. So here comes the other question. So we know we are able to discriminate what is good and bad, but how do we politely say a no if we are being
Beautiful
pulled into something?
question. That's a wonderful question. Good and bad. So, how do you politely say no? That's a big thing. Because polite is a very relative term. Even the most polite words that we use sometimes might be harsh for them if their preconceived notions are so. But, rightly said, if we know that this is bad, if it is truly bad, then we must have the fearlessness to say, no, I'm not going to give up to all these temptations. You need not be polite to say no to a bad thing. If somebody calls you to have, to do a bad habit, to drink or to smoke or to do all these vices, that, and they say this is the fashion, this is the style statement, you must have the fearlessness to say no. You need not be polite at that particular point of time, is my personal feeling. Because all the time compromising and being polite and being acceptable to all, you need not be acceptable to each and every person. You have to be acceptable to the Lord, to your conscience, to your inner conscience. And I think that will, by that itself, that gesture itself, others will start actually getting inspired by you. Might be they might be a little put down right at the beginning, but then they will say, oh, he has the fearlessness to say no to this bad habit. I think we also should follow this particular example.
Thank you. Okay, the other question I had is, how do we balance formal education and music or any other art form that we are pursuing to be able to do justice to both of them?
Hard work. Hard work is the only route. There is no other shortcut method. Maybe you would have expected some shortcut solutions that from which I would be advising. No way. There is no other shortcut method at all. If you have to balance music and the formal education system, you have to definitely allot time. As my guru Lalguri Jaraman sir keeps saying, how much ever time you allot to that particular art form will give itself to you. It's the same thing for education. It's the same thing everywhere. நீ எவ்வளோ டைம் கொடுக்குறியோ அவ்வளோ அந்த அளவுக்கு அந்த கலைங்கிற தேவதை அவளை நமக்கு கொடுப்பா. So she gives herself to us as much as we give ourselves to that particular devata.
I think you addressed this briefly, but another parent has asked this question. If a youngster is in depression, can you hear me?
Yeah, if a youngster is in depression.
Yeah, if a youngster is in depression, how does he or she come out of it? So in this world of attention-seeking world, right? It's all about attention all the time. And I know you've addressed it briefly, but this question has popped up again.
Wonderful. It's a very important question. Even if we repeat it hundreds of times, I think that is of utmost importance nowadays, because the whole world now is attention seeking. Whether it's the real platform or the online platform, everybody wants attention. Everybody wants, they are hankering after something. So, and because of that, you're getting into depression. So first thing that we need to do is stop comparisons. Comparison, if it stops, then you will never get into depression. The biggest vice, the root evil for depression is comparison. If you constantly compare yourself with something else, with somebody else, and the comparison usually goes with people who are above you, you don't look at people who are below you. So if you look at least people who are below you, you can try that feelings of compassion and that empathy, all that comes to you. But you constantly compare people who are above you, and you constantly get depressed. So first, stop comparisons. 2, try to do atma vichara, get into that bhakti mode, like that aeroplane mode in that laptop or that cell phone, no? Get into that bhakti mode and surrender all your feelings to your Ishta Devata. That will give us that kind of, it will open our mind, and all of our problems, Ma Kelara Vicharamu, he will take care. That is the only mantra which can help youngsters, old people, infants, everybody, all age groups. Everything that happens in this world is His will, His will, His Sankalpa. That is, today, if the lecture is going on, it is His Sankalpa. If I'm talking, it is His Sankalpa. If you are asking, it is His Sankalpa. It's not my action. If you keep on associating everything with you, yourself, ahankaram and mamakaram, then only the question of this comparison or greed or jealousy, kama, krodha, all this enters, depression enters. Kama, krodha, moha, mada, matsarya is the root cause of depression. So everything, take it as his Leela. This is his game. He's playing now with Sacramento Mahaperiavaa Mandali. Now he's playing a game with question and answer session using all of us as instruments. Everything is a game that he is playing.
Beautiful, beautiful. The final question, and we have one more question after this. So, spiritual journey is not an easy one. It's sometimes filled with hardship, and as you mentioned, His will, surrender is the key. But then, the question here is, if we are trying to serve somebody and they ill treat us, and they don't show respect to us, how do we deal with it? If it's even our own kith and kin, and we keep showing them so
Yeah.
much love and they ill treat us, how do we deal with it?
This happens because we are expecting that the other person recognizes what we have done for them. So we have expectations that they say, oh, you have helped me so much in need, thank you so much. We expect that they really praise us, extol us, தலைக்கு மேல வச்சு கொண்டாடணும், or at least say a thanks. We are expecting at least a thanks. That is why our Shastras give a beautiful shloka. Whatever act you do, don't expect the thanks or the gratitude from that particular other person. Do it as Narayanayeti Samarpayami. I'm not doing this help, or I'm not rendering the service for that particular person. I'm doing this because the Antaryami inside will feel happy. So I'm doing it as Narayanayeti Samarpayami. So Karmanyevadhikaraste Mahapaleshu. You don't even need to expect a thanks in return for all that you have done. This is the human nature. People will not recognize what you have done. All the people, all your kith and kin also, even the closest relatives will not say thank you for what you have done. They will in fact find fault, because more we do, more fault finding will happen. But this we are doing not for that particular person. We are seeing the devata swarupa in all people. Madhava seva is Manava seva is Madhava seva, right? Manava seva is Madhava seva is what you introduced right at the beginning, Mrs. Supraja. So I am trying to reiterate that point. Manava seva is Madhava seva. So Madhava will say, very good, you have done this. Don't worry. You need not expect that particular applause from your own kith and kin.
Thank you, Ji. One more final question. It's like, so we know that our friends are going in the wrong path. What is that we can do about it? We know that somebody is falling into the trap. How do we save them? And is there a daily dosage, like the Facebook and Instagram messages? Is there like a daily dosage of following this ritual part?
That's a good question. So if your friends are all going astray, just because 10 people are going and falling into a well, you can also not go just follow them and fall into the well. You can perhaps tell them, don't go there is a well there, you will fall into that well. But still, some people might listen to you, and out of the 10, maybe 1 or 2 will come out of the track and say, oh, thank you for cautioning me about the well. But the rest 8 are going to fall into the well. It's going to happen, because this is what happens around us. We see people, even though we do all the upadesha, even if 1 or 2 have been saved from falling into the well because of your instruction, I think you should be happy enough. If you have not made any attempts, all the 10 would have fallen into the well. Now you have saved one or two lives. So, definitely, if you feel they are going astray, tell them you're going astray. This is not the path. This is not what our Indian scriptures or shastras or the great seers and saints have taught us. You should not be doing this. You try to tell them. If they listen, out of 10, at least one listens, or sometimes people might not listen at that particular point of time, but later on, when there are certain circumstances, some things will work in their subconscious mind, and that will change that will create a metamorphosis in their own heart. So anyway, your duty is to tell them, because they are your friends. Even if they are your enemies, you tell them you're wrong. You're wrong, and it's better you do it this way. Don't fall into bad habits. At least your conscience is clear.
Great, thank you. So you are a phenomenon and you have inspired thousands and thousands of us, including from 9-year-olds to 80-year-old. All of us are inspired. We want to know if we can all become your students in your Harikatha school. Can you
Sure, sure.
please give us more information about Vijay Shri Patashala?
Yeah, wonderful. So this is a very beautiful journey that we began during the Mahashivratri of February 2020. We didn't know that this virus and the COVID and everything is going to happen. It just, as I just told you, this is His will. So we just started Vijay Shri Patashala uh, in the name of my mother Vijaya, and Shri is for Shri Shri Anna. So combining both my mother's name Vijaya and Shri Shri Anna, Vijay Shri School of Harikatha. Here we would like to take, as I was telling in the lecture, we would like to take our Indian culture, true Indian history, the beautiful kings who have ruled India, the unknown, untold stories of our kings, of our queens, of our rishis, of our saints, of these beautiful composers, all these which are remaining totally hidden deep under the ground. We would like to unearth these treasures and give them through the art form, because that reaches people easily through dance. Some of the students do the harikatha with dance as nritya harikatha. Some of them do it through mudra harikatha, just sitting. Some of them do it through kavya harikatha, through composing Sanskrit poetry. Some of them do it through sand arts. So trying to mix different art forms along with harikatha, but the basic goal is let knowledge and devotion fill the cosmos. Jnanam Paramaguhyam. So that is the goal, the motive behind Vijay Shri School of Harikatha. And today we have hundreds of students. Definitely most of you, all of you are welcome. And even for those people who are not able to sing or not able to follow Sanskrit, we have this Vijay Shri Satsang series every month. Like some student, some youngster asked, is there a daily dosage that we can have? We have a monthly dosage. So to charge our cell phones, no, we charge our cell phones. So similarly, we charge our souls with this monthly satsang. Either students do or I do. They listen, and I think this is a blissful part, because we come to know about so many other compositions, poetry, kirtanas, and it's such a samudra, an ocean of bliss, an ocean of eternity. Most welcome into the Vijayashri family.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so grateful for all your answers, and you answered them so patiently. Thank you so much. We have covered most of our questions now. I think there might be a few that is not addressed, but then most of them are addressed in your speech. They can get answers in your lecture itself. Thank you so much, Vishakha ji. We are immensely grateful for your time, effort, and especially striving to reach this to the younger generation. Your sweet, simple, yet powerful narration of Mahaperiyavaa's pragmatic solutions for today's mystery has actually made a greater impact on all of us. It's actually a bargain to listen the characteristics of a student and teacher with a person who's actually humility personified. You live by those characteristics. So thank you so much. The points that end of education is character and how thoughts should grow vertically, especially thinking high and simple living, and moving towards moksham through dharma. And as science advances, it's very important that we stick to our religion and hence believe that we are a Vasudeva Kudumbakam. And all these points were captured so beautifully. And especially in a nutshell, you beautifully conveyed the true duty of a youth. It's actually in serving the society and the nation, like how Vivekananda did, and also build on their physical, mental, and character health, which will lead to prosperity and humanity growing. And especially quoting the examples of Chhatrapati Shivaji and Hanuman have registered so well in our heart. We would like to hear you again and again. Please, Sacramento Mahaperiavaa Mandali really wants you to grace us at least once a year. Thank you so much, G.
It's
And
amazing. It's amazing that you have summed up the entire lecture. It's stunning and amazing that you have summed up the entire lecture in such a small, in just 2 minutes. You have given the entire lecture, Sarah. That was just amazing, Mrs. Supraja. Wonderful. I'm really in awe of the way you have grasped and retained and given it back. The whole of the 1.5 hour lecture in just 2 minutes, you've summed up each and every important point that I was trying to really relate. Really, that was a great summing up. I've never heard a summing up like this previously.
Hare Krishna, it's the impact of your speech. It just touches the soul, as I said. Thank you. At this very moment, we also like to offer our thanks to Anand Gurumurthy ji for his technical support, and Nirmala ji and Krishna ji from Chennai for coordinating all of this. We would like to hear you again and again, as always. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Jai Sitaram.
Jai
Hare
Sitaram.
Krishna.
Jai Sitaram.